Let's discuss today what are the signs of a kosher bird. You may be familiar that the Torah gives signs for a kosher animal or kosher fish. A kosher animal needs split hooves and to chew its cud. A kosher fish also needs two signs, fins and scales. The Torah doesn't mention any signs for a kosher bird. In fact, all the Torah mentions is 24 non-kosher species. And in fact, the Gemara in Cholin says that any person who's an avian expert or ornithologist, if he's familiar with these 24 forbidden species, he may eat every other species of bird that exists in the world. However, we're not all experts. So the Gemara lists 4 signs of a kosher bird. But just before we mention what the 4 signs are, we got to note there's a difference between the signs of a kosher fish and bird, a kosher fish and animal to a kosher bird. A kosher animal which has only one of the signs, let's say only split hooves like the swine, will not be kosher. You need 2 signs to be kosher. Similarly with a fish, if it only has the fins, it's not going to be kosher. It needs fins and scales. Happens to be, the Gemara says, that any fish which has scales, we know that has fins too. However, with the 4 signs of a bird, if you have all 4 signs, you're definitely kosher. If you lack any of the 4 signs, a bird which lacks any of the 4 signs, is definitely not kosher. The Gemara says that's a nesher. It could be as an eagle, debatable amongst Rishonim. However, the in between, some birds which don't have all the 4 signs, not necessarily every one of them is not kosher. For example, geese only have 3 of the signs, and they definitely are kosher. Some birds will not be kosher. What are the 4 signs? We'll run through them briefly, and then we'll elaborate on them. The Gemara says it can't be a doires. Doires means some sort of grabbing with the talons. We'll elaborate in a second. A kosher bird has a regular by Yisera extra leg, extra toe. It's got a zefek, meaning a crop, external pouch to contain extra food, which is not digesting right then. And its stomach can be peeled. The gizzard has an inner lining which can be peeled off. Let's describe what they are. Doris commonly is translated as a predator, but it's a mistake, because chickens, they eat and they feast on worms and bugs, and they're predators, but they're kosher. The Gemara gives, or the Rishonim give various signs what a doris is. One of the signs of a doris is that basically it's using its talons, its claws, in its process of eating its prey. The Gemara says if it could, whilst it's flying, it eats with its talons. The Gemara the Rishonim give a sign that if you place on a rope and you pull the rope is tight, so the non-kosher bird will place 2 talons in front and 2 behind. That shows it's a doires, whereas a kosher bird will place 3 in front and 1 behind. Another sign is, like we said, that whilst it's flying, it will place food from its talons into its mouth. The Rishonim give one sign where it's definitely not a doires. If it's got a wide bill, a wide beak, and webbed feet, so it's definitely not a doires. Those are the signs of doires. The other signs we mentioned is it has an esbei extra leg, extra toe. Discussion on the Rishonim exactly where that is, in behind or middle, extending out. It has a zefek, which is a crop. The birds which are kosher have an additional pouch outside where they store food, and then they could fly away and they could later on digest it at a separate time. And finally, they have a lining on the inside of their stomachs, their gizzards, which can be peeled off very easily. Those are signs of a kosher bird. However, the Ramah brings down in Yeridei and Pei Base 82 that nowadays we don't eat any bird which we haven't got a Messiah to, which we haven't got a tradition that's kosher. There's a discussion over there in the authorities that if you know for sure it's not a doires, because any bird which is a doires, which preys with its talons, is definitely not kosher. But if you know it's not doires, for example, it's got webbed feet and a wide bill, and you know it has all other 3 signs, maybe you can eat it. So there was a controversy with a Muscovy duck, which had all the 3 signs, and it had wide webbed feet and a wide bill, and will that definitely be kosher? However, the Ramah's opinion is that we don't eat any bird without a clear tradition. So to summarize again, There are 4 signs which make a bird kosher, which means it doesn't eat its prey with its talons, it's not doiris. It has an extra toe, it has an external crop, and the internal lining of its gizzard can be peeled. The question is, if we find a new species which has all those 4 signs, could we rely on it? Could we eat it without a Masorah clear tradition? And the Ramah's opinion is one shouldn't. Kosher birds include geese, hens, doves, quail, turkey, duck. And non-kosher birds include obviously the eagles and or owls, pelicans, falcons, etc. So these are the signs brought down in the Gemara to identify a kosher bird.